typically when you're going to a game where you're a 43.5 point favorite, you're not overly worried about injuries. But I did want to update y'all on a couple of injuries that Georgia had coming out of the Texas game. First of all, three important players for the Dogs, three starters or starter adjacent. CJ Allen is a guy that Kirby says will, quote, be week to week, and we'll see when we can get him back. So that's a pretty important player for them. After the Texas game, he was talking about how he really would like to get CJ Allen back out on the field. I think it was in the third quarter when he left the game. I'm trying to remember. I know which sideline I was on, or which end zone I was in, I should say. So CJ Allen is a guy that they're kind of waiting on just to see. Here was what Kirby said on Chauncey Bowen's running back, who has had such a good season. He said, it'll be day to day. So day to day is different than week to week in theory. But Georgia, of course, doesn't give official updates. They're not mandated to. They would be mandated to for the SEC championship game. My suggestion to Greg Sankey or, whoever is to give an official, any SEC game, any game that SEC schools play, there should be an official injury report. The reason why is you're sort of negating or hedging against betting, any sort of betting information that could get out there from players or staff, and you have a NBA situation on your hands or a Major League Baseball situation on your hands. That's why I would make it a uniform thing every single week, but that's my opinion. Anyway, Chauncey Bowens Kirby says it'll be day to day. Hopefully we'll get him back. I actually hadn't had a chance to see Chauncey yet, but he was doing rehab this morning and had a great report from that. And then the final question was about Christian Miller, and Kirby's response was, as far as I know, he's good. I saw Christian Miller after the game, and he had a lot to say after the game to one of the Texas players. So I think Christian Miller was fine on Saturday night, insofar as I could tell. But I think, if you're Georgia and you look at the situation coming into it, the question moving forward is, are you going to get any of the guys back who have been out for the last few weeks? And that's a good question, because you've got some wide receivers that I don't know the stat. Ethan Barber playing this season would be very surprising to me. Okay. Obviously Lawson Lucky was back against Texas. Ethan Barber being back, Colby Young has been scooting around with I don't know what those things are called. Like a rolling knee, a knee roller, for lack of a better term. He's been in an air cast, whatever those cast things are, the plastic thing on his foot. But Taylor Taylor's the one that getting Taylor back would be an ideal situation for Georgia heading into the postseason. There's so much we don't know about with this team right now as it relates to what will happen after the Georgia Tech game. I would encourage you to go over to Dawg Posts today and read Final Feelings, because I lay out all of the scenarios. There are more than 10 scenarios. There are more than 10 scenarios going into this weekend about the SEC championship game. There are still 4 teams. Georgia could still wind up not playing in it, playing Ole Miss, or playing Alabama. Or playing Texas A&M, if I'm not mistaken, from my reporting. So there are so many different things that can happen in this coming couple of weeks that it is hard to know really what's going on out there. But to get Taylor back would be a big deal. Now, I don't know. We haven't had an update on that for a long time. So there are scenarios where Georgia could not play in the SEC championship, where they could play Ole Miss, where they could play A&M, or where they could play Alabama. There's not fewer than 10 combinations. So there's more than that. But I don't go through the exhaustive thing. I'm gonna lay that out in Final Feelings Friday night. But this is a team that is relatively healthy. Relatively speaking, you're still missing out on a couple of guys that would be very helpful, but I just don't know if they'll be back. That's the thing. When you talk about, Barber, I just don't think that's going to happen. There's players that Georgia would love to get back out there, and I would think that he would be one of those guys. Not Barber. I meant to say Taylor. And then Kyron Jones, I don't know what the status is there. Those guys have been out lately. Josh Horton was listed on the report for the Texas game. I can't recall if he played in that game or not off the top of my head. But Georgia is, generally speaking, healthy in a way that they just weren't last year. You think about Etienne hurt the whole season, basically. Carson, from the Kentucky game on, he had challenges. Obviously, the offensive line was just sort of never set. So you had a little bit of that at the beginning of this year. We've not seen that the whole year this year. Like we saw basically last year, Tate Ratledge was hurt for a lot of that season. They just never got played together, it seems like, half the time. And the offense was just all over the place. So, and then Colby Young, of course, was out midway through the season. If it wasn't one thing, it was another last year. That's not what they're experiencing this time. It's been a very good run of games for Georgia in terms of the injury. Now, you got to have Chauncey Bowens back. That's going to have to happen. And, Kirby, this update, I guess, I don't know what he's saying. I mean, I don't mean that bad or aggressively towards him. Day to day to me is different than week to week. Day to day is far less serious of an injury. But in both cases, he's saying, with CJ Allen, he said week to week, and he says, see when we can get him back. And then with Chauncey Bowens, he says day to day, hopefully we'll get him back. So I don't know what that means in either scenario. It is what it is. But I think that's why, if I were Greg Sankey, I would make this a definitive thing for SEC games, not just conference games. Any Southeastern Conference football game, basketball game, and league, I think you could. But I think that they're doing this, the league is doing this to mitigate gambling situations. I was one of the reporters that was talking with Greg Sankey before the Texas-Georgia game. And, that was one thing that they did. That's what Greg said, was they wanted to mitigate that situation, because understanding injury is one of the key things in betting. And once you start, what happens there is, bettors want as much knowledge as they can get, as much insider information as they can get. It's not the bettor's fault. So when you do an injury report, it just takes all of that away. It mitigates that. And, I would consider that if I were them. Then you're taking it out of the coach's hands. They don't have to worry about it. They can say, well, we'll put our report out on Wednesday. I think reporters at Georgia are well within their right to ask every single press conference what the status is with injured players if they're not going to be an injury report. I think it's a legitimate question. I don't know if it's a legitimate question now that I say that. But we only get Kirby once a week. So every time he's up there, I think it's a completely legitimate question or questions. But this team is pretty healthy, and I think they're getting where they got to go. I mean, Kirk Herbstreit, we talked about it earlier this week. Kirk Herbstreit was saying he doesn't know if anybody's played, improved more than Georgia. I don't know that either. I just don't know that from where Georgia started at to the improvement. I don't know if that's enough to get where they got to go at the end of the day. That is the question. It's not about being, if you're a 2-8 team, but you've really improved, you won your last two games because of your improvement. I mean, you're still a 2-8 team. The question moving forward is, can Georgia stay healthy these next two games? Because from that point forward, you're in championship mode. This is it's Stetson season. And that's when your championship players need to come out and play championship football. Stetson Bennett understood that moment. And he was 5-1 in Stetson's season. So that would be SEC championship games and playoff games. He was 5-1. He lost one game. There was no team he played in championship season that he didn't defeat. Okay, so he beat everybody he played. He did lose one of them to Alabama, but then they came back and he made championship plays, let me tell you, to win it in Indianapolis. So that's where we're at with this thing is, can this team stay healthy and make championship plays? We're about to find out.